You are on.
Hi, I'm Sharon Joy Kleitch. I'm sitting here in St. Petersburg, Florida, in this delightful World Cafe this afternoon. And Ben so graciously invited us and is managing the technology and in some ways facilitating, although what we love about World Cafe is we pass the talking piece. And we had a beautiful expression of another person in the cafe, Heather Tisham. Is that how you pronounce Heather's last name?
Tishbein.
Tishbein.
And by the way, not everybody knows that what we're doing is a World Cafe. We're calling it a deep dive, and I don't even know if World Cafe folks would recognize it as one if we didn't name it for them.
All right.
But so that is what this process is based on overall.
Thank you. Thank you for your facilitation to pull us back into the center of the table. So I will say that, yes, it was a focus, as Jane was concluding, is that consciousness is indeed the center. And that was what began the conversations. And therefore, since 3 or 4 of us were deeply involved with the Institute of Noetic Sciences, there were stories told, stories shared in that context. And then, as Jane also pointed out, it feels like it's generative now. Things are emerging. I'll sign off because I've got a phone ringing.
And I'm Sue Blythe. I'm in North Florida, Gainesville. And I am always so happy to be with Ben and his groups that come together online. And this deep dive has been significant for me because have just started planning a interfaith climate conversation at a public library near me at the request. Well, it's with a group of Baha'is with the commitment to make it interfaith. And it's just really exciting. And this conversation has been right on and just what I needed to hear. So I thank you all.
Well, hi, my name is Jane Hughes Genu, and I'm up in New Hampshire, Keene, New Hampshire, which is southwestern New Hampshire in New England. But I'm born and bred, as we say, New Yorker, really. But I've been up here for 2.5 years, and enjoying this conversation. One of many, 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 many that I've had over the years. Not some of the Zoom technology is fairly new, but we all have learned how to talk to one another sitting around a table or sitting around anywhere or walking along a path. I mean, we know how to talk, and we know how to share, we know how to listen. And that's really what's at the heart of this. And it isn't about people all agreeing. It's being open to diversity and open to new ideas and new conceptions of ideas. And so I think it's something that is important to be recognized and expanded in this time of huge, huge, huge transition. Some people call it chaos, but another way to look at it is a transition. So that's how I look at it anyway.
Yeah, thank you, Jane. The conversation here, when Sue named her work in libraries, we wound up taking that as sort of a particular context for our conversation, because many of us we're all connected to doing dialogue in libraries in different ways. In particular, a number of us around climate-related work. So we really looked at the second of the questions for the deep dive on how we engage in generative ways in mainstream contexts to bring forth a shift in consciousness, amplify that shift. And I think what really struck me about it was a sense first that there's there's a momentum that's building. I think Jane just alluded to that. Heather Tischbein, who was in the conversation too and had to leave, was talking about how for 15 years she's been working with the library system where she is in Vancouver, Washington, and patiently with, you know, dealing with these institutional challenges. And now finally they're willing to open things up to people coming and talking about controversial stuff. And I think that there's a kind of a dam breaking, maybe, that there's a turning point here in New England. We're going to be having climate change conversations all across the region, hopefully in September, particularly in Massachusetts, using the World Cafe model in many cases. Anyway, it's the other thing I'm taking away from just, there's the momentum and being patient, and that these spaces, these commons, the way that, you know, Sharon Joy named them, are precious and vital and beautiful places to have these much needed conversations that bring us together across the divides that we're creating. And that stories are a powerful way to do that, or other kinds of exercises and processes beyond just talking to one another, that open our hearts and take us maybe out of our own personal kind of locked in frame of reference. Jane mentioned role-playing exercises and things, but somehow I think we need to embody and model what it's like to embody the shifted consciousness for ourselves and for others, in order for these conversations, you know, for our engagement in whatever form it is in the mainstream, to really have a chance, I think, of being powerful. That just clearly getting into arguments and saying, you know, we over here have figured this out, and we're telling all you because you need to get on board, because otherwise we're all going down, you know, is a story we've been telling a lot. And I think there's plenty of energy going into that. That's at least one way that I look at it. I'm interested in how we can find different ways of bringing that conversation forward without the othering, with the heart opening piece. So with that, I am complete. Anything else that anyone wants to add before we close the recording?
Don't tempt us. Go on forever.
Well, thank you all for being here. It's June 7th, and we're just getting started with the deep dive. So we'll see you again soon, perhaps.